Hi everyone, I'm Christina Fecio and I have an opportunity today to catch up with my friend and colleague Kim Puma. Kim, can you tell us a little bit about your position and what you are currently involved in your little corner of the world professionally?
Hi, sure. Thanks, Christina. I am the Infant Toddler Regional Services Coordinator, which is a super fancy title that basically just means that I help coordinate the projects and training through the Western New York Infant Toddler Resource Network, which is another grant that I work under through the Child Care Resource Network, who's the lead agency for the Infant Toddler grant.
All right, so I know from our work together on the Western New York Behavior Collaboration that a lot of your attention professionally has been focused on self-care. When I was thinking about the current health crisis, I'm thinking that the topic of self-care is even more important than it ever has been. So I was hoping that you could share a little insight about your thoughts on self-care and maybe some tips for parents or professionals who might be struggling in that area right now.
Sure. So here, I'm going to get interrupted.
That's all right.
I can see myself all the way in the living room because I'm on my stool.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Hi. We're happy to see you.
So this is daily life in this household. Many Zoom calls that are easily interrupted by the 4-year-old. So we do the best we can and get through what we can. But I think this is pretty common life these days.
Yeah, and I love that she popped in because that's such an example of the reality that so many of us are managing right now, trying to work full time while you have children at home. And I'm guessing that a lot of parents feel stretched pretty thin.
Yeah, I think that prior to this, we thought that working from home would be such a wonderful idea, right? Like, who doesn't want to be home and work and be with their family more, and probably seen it as having that perfect work-life balance. But it's difficult. It's difficult trying to get through, hours, blocks of time to try and get a task done, and then that happens.
Right, and to still feel like you're being a parent in the way that you want to be a really intentional parent too.
Yeah.
So
luckily, there's 2 older ones here, so they help quite a bit. Entertain her, take her outside, things with her, so that I'm able to do what I need to do. But it's quite a challenge. But yeah, this idea of self-care, it's kind of a buzzword, right? Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's trying to figure out how to fit some sort of self-care into their day. And, I think it's easy to get sort of sidetracked with what that really means. Self-care doesn't have to mean a $50 pedicure, every week. It doesn't have to mean a gym membership that you can't necessarily afford. It can be something really simple, and I think the last couple of months maybe have taught us that all of those things that maybe we held in our minds that were our idea of self-care, getting our hair done, all of those types of things, because those are moments where we get to escape and we get to be out of the house and we get to be away from our families, and it's just us. We've had to sort of redefine that, right?
right.
The weather's finally gotten nice here, and really being able to take advantage of that and going for a walk, going for a bike ride, just sitting outside and feeling the sun on your body for 10 minutes is a form of self-care. I think that it's anything that refuels your soul, right? And that looks different for everybody.
Yeah, that's the definition I tend to refer back to too, as something that refuels you or regenerates you rather than depletes you. So the good news about that is that gives you lots of options for self-care. Sometimes though, I don't know about you, but sometimes if I have too many options, I think what they call it like decision fatigue. So there are so many ways that I know I could take care of myself, like, oh, I should do yoga or I could do this, that I sometimes end up doing nothing because it just feels like it's too much. So if there's anyone who's feeling like that, do you have a couple of strategies that might just be quick, things you can do without necessarily advanced planning, but things that can help sort of refuel you in a meaningful way?
Yeah. So I saw an interesting list actually yesterday. One was this is what self-care looks like, and this is not what self-care looks like. And self-care does not look like doing an hour workout that you absolutely hate. If that's not something that you're enjoying, then you're not filling your soul back up. You're not finding joy in that. That's not the thing that you should be doing that you're defining as self-care. Now, the other thing that was also on the not list was a glass of wine, which I completely disagreed with. Because a glass of wine after a hard day, just being able to sit and breathe and enjoy that glass of wine, I think it's an okay way to identify it, something that is self-care. But it really needs to be something that you find enjoyable, that is just yours. And again, fills your soul and makes you feel good and recharges you, because that's really a lot of what we need to be doing right now. We need to be recharging ourselves.
Right. Do you think that, and knowing obviously that you work with parents and providers of really young children, do you think that there are any specific strategies that work well for parents who are in that really exhausting physical caretaking stage? I remember, it's been a long time, but I remember when my daughter was really young, sometimes I felt like I literally only had a minute. So if you only have a minute or two to yourself, any suggestions on how that might work?
I just did a session on mindfulness yesterday for one of my colleagues' CBA classes. And bringing mindfulness into part of your routine throughout the day can be a really good way to also recharge. And doing mindful breathing, doing meditative breathing only takes 1 or 2 minutes at a time. It doesn't have to be a 5-minute, a 10-minute, a 30-minute meditation. It really can be just, putting on, whether it's some soothing music or a chime here and there, some waterfalls for a couple minutes, and just sort of check out for a minute and recenter yourself. That might mean hiding in the bathroom. That might mean going and sitting in your car for a minute. Whatever that looks like, however you're able to achieve that. But just doing some mindful breathing can be a really good way to incorporate some self-care.
And that makes sense. You can do that anytime, anywhere.
Yep.
To me, that seems like the perfect segue between the other topic that I was hoping to ask you about, which was, I know that you do a lot of work professionally with infant mental health. And it seems to me, who's not a professional in that field, that the adults taking good care of themselves and applying things like mindfulness strategies is really a nice step in the direction of protecting and nurturing infant mental health. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. So I'm wondering, before we wrap things up, when you think about that section of the work that you do, is there anything that's really top of mind right now, considering that most infants and toddlers are home with their families, are not necessarily in their child care programs, or if they are in their child care programs, it's very different from the program that they knew before in terms of operations and the way that things are running day to day. So I said a lot of things. And I guess I'm just wondering, knowing the situation where parents and their young children are right now, is there anything that you're really thinking about or planning to work on moving forward, or just any ideas that you might have?
I think the very first thing that comes to mind is that from birth to 3, it's, we all know that it's such a huge phase of brain development. And that happens within the context of relationships and within the context of healthy relationships. And I think that if you are taking good care of yourself and you are refueling yourself, we always talk about how you can't pour from an empty cup, then I think that even though those connections might look a little bit different and those relationships might look a little bit different right now than they looked before, you're still making those connections. And that's what kids need right now in order to feel safe, in order to feel secure. So that's all that I would continue to encourage parents to do, and to encourage providers to do, is just to really be intentional with those connections that you're making and those interactions that you're having every day, even though they might look a little bit different than before.
Yeah, you know what, as you were talking about that, I was reminded of something that I've been talking with a lot of people about, even parents of older children or providers with older children. Everyone seems to be worried about, like, what about catching up from this missed time, this time that they're missing in school? How are we going to catch up, and like just getting back on track and those types of things? And your message seems to resonate there too, like really just focusing on the relationships and the connections, because that's what they need the most right now. So thanks for reminding me of that. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I know even with my bigger kids that whenever they have those Google meetups and they have an opportunity to see their friends' faces and interact with their teachers, their days just seem to be a little bit different than the days where those connections are not happening. So, you know,
Yeah,
it needs to be happening.
it makes a lot of sense. I feel it as an adult, even when I get to see people's faces and connect with people who I normally would have seen on a daily or weekly basis. It changes my day.
Yeah.
So thank you for that reminder. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
No, just, you know, I keep trying to hug those babies and love those toddlers, and you know, the social emotional stuff is just as important as all of the health and safety stuff that we're really, really concerned about right now. But they still need the, you know, the good stuff too that they're used to getting on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When we do wrap up the call, I'll make sure that I share your contact information, but are there any other websites or anything that you would like to direct parents or providers to that you find helpful, particularly during this time?
0 to 3 right now, I think is a good resource, particularly for parents. They have some really good advice on how to talk to your kids of all ages about COVID. That's sort of the one that, you know, I keep sending everybody to. For providers, and this is, you know, not sponsored, right?
Right.
But anything conscious discipline and anything pyramid related that's going to support social emotional development in kids is, you know, where I would be looking right now as well. And then Western New York Infant Toddler Resource Network does have our own Facebook page separate from Child Care Resource Network.
Great.
So, you know, we're always posting a little bit different things over there. Still, you know, we repost things that you're posting from DAL and Behavior Toolbox, but we have our own spin on things over there too. So.
All right. Well, I'll make sure to share that link too, so we keep everyone connected. Well, thank you again for sharing your time with me and for introducing us to your daughter too. So have a good afternoon.
You too.